From China's perspective, how is it viewing the developments in Myanmar?
Well, China prefers Myanmar to be a relatively normal and stable country. So what has transpired in the past 3 days are certainly not the most exciting or good news for China. But on the other hand, China also has the political position that it is determined to work with any government in power in Myanmar, regardless of who that government, who is leading that government. So I think, judging from that perspective, I think China's relationship with Myanmar is probably going to go through some uncertainty because of the political consequences of the events. But China is not going to suffer a permanent damage in terms of that bilateral relationship.
But how does it take it from here? How will it deal with a military government? I mean, prior to this, China actually struck a cordial relationship with Aung San Suu Kyi. It was building on that relationship.
Yes, indeed. Well, if China has a choice between the military and the NLD government, I think China probably would prefer the NLD government to be governing the country because, the country has had good relationship with China under the NLD government, and the economic cooperation was going okay. And it turns out that although Aung San Suu Kyi has been a democratic icon, China has no problem developing a very cordial and positive relationship with her. In comparison, the government led by the military government probably is going to face a lot of international pressure and international isolation, as well as sanctions. So that really pushed the ball to the Chinese court as for whether China will come out to defend or to protect and shield the military government. Based on what we have seen in the past 3 days, that's exactly what Beijing has chosen to do.
There is talk of reimposing sanctions on Myanmar. Decades of sanctions have not worked. Diplomacy has not worked. Isn't it true that the world can't really do anything but watch?
Unfortunately, we have had several discussions here at Stimson Center. Unfortunately, that seems to be where we are. We know that sanctions in the past have had limited utility, coming to forcing the military in Myanmar to change its mind and change its policy. And we could also argue that the political reform that started in 2011, that was not motivated by the sanctions. That was motivated by a series of internal and external factors. So in this case, unfortunately, I understand that sanction will be a principled position to show where we stand and to show that coups will not be rewarded. But on the other hand, the ability of us using the sanction to reverse the coup is extremely limited.
So what path then do you see first, I guess the question is, will this necessarily have a democratic-style resolution, and is there a path to that you see from the current situation?
I think the window of opportunity for that political deal to be struck between the Burmese military and the NLD, it existed over the weekend. So basically, by the end of Sunday, both sides recognize that there's not going to be a political deal. And that's why the military decided to stage a coup early Monday morning in order to prevent the parliament from meeting. So unfortunately, I think the best timing for a political deal has passed. Now with the political charges against Aung San Suu Kyi, I think the possibility of the military to continue to negotiate with her and to have a political compromise in the end is also going to be limited. So we are watching the country basically under the military's rule. Probably they will want to, like they have announced, they will organize an election within 12 months. And whoever wins that election will be conferred the power. The military will transition the power to the new political parties that wins in that election. But I think we just have a lot of doubts and skepticism about the legality and about the integrity of that election.
Right. Okay. Now, in the event that we do get to that and somebody, of course, wins that election, do we then circle back to the previous situation where, yes, you have somebody de facto, Aung San Suu Kyi, but with a great influence still from the military?
I think what is more likely to happen is that the military is not going to let a political party that the military does not trust to gain power in Myanmar, meaning that will NLD be able to run in that military administered election and also to win in that military administered election is going to be highly questionable. So I think what's more likely to happen is the return to the period between 2011 and 2015. So there would be a so-called democratically elected government, but it's a pseudo-civilian government. It has the military's backing, and it also respects the military's bottom lines and interest by its policymaking.